As Nick said by way of intro, my name is Matt. So I've lived in Asia in the digital industry for 15 years now. So for nearly half of my life, I've been working in digital in Asia. I'm currently the CEO of a company called AdKnowledge Asia, and we have a proprietary ad platform which is called AdParlor. Through AdParlor, we're able to buy Facebook advertising, Twitter advertising, Instagram advertising, and most relevantly, YouTube advertising. So across Asia, we work with 500 advertisers delivering advertising onto YouTube. So hopefully we know a little bit about it. You spent the first kind of day and a half learning about and shaping your thoughts on how you create content. This section is now going to pivot a little bit and talk about how once you have great content, and remember, content is king, distribution is queen. Once you have great content, how do you start marketing that content, using that content to do what we all want to do, which is acquire customers? So how do I amplify my content to, you okay? How do I scare the life out of me? How do I get my content and amplify my content to acquire customers? So that's what this session is all about. Here's the broad agenda. So over the next 45 minutes, we're going to have a look at what is that ecosystem that you can tap into to start amplifying your content and acquire customers. Once you've understood a little bit about that ecosystem, what does media planning look like? So if you're going to start executing on a strategy, you're going to want to plan first. So what does media planning look like? Then what about execution? What does execution look like? Then once we've started executing, how do we optimize? And then finally, a little bit about activation and what am I hoping to achieve from that. So first off, who wants to help me with this? So this is a horrible looking chart. So this is the lunarscape of all the companies that are out there that will gladly work with you to amplify your content and acquire customers. In fact, they won't only gladly work with you, once they know that you want to do it, they'll call you, pester you, harangue you, hang outside your house, track you down the streets. All of these guys, as you can see, it's a very competitive environment. All of these guys are fighting with themselves and climbing over each other to try to help you to acquire customers. So it's complicated. There's a lot of people out there that want to work with you. Obviously that's a good thing, and also it can be a bad thing when it kind of looks like this. All of these platforms and all of these partners do slightly different things. They're probably all going to profess to be the one thing that you need to achieve all your goals, because that's kind of what salespeople tends to say. But over a period of time, you're probably going to want to start picking and choosing and working with a few partners that allow you to achieve your goals. The great thing is that all of them are doing one very, very simple thing, which is what you're going to want to do, which is basically connect advertising content with publishers. So take a piece of ad content and find the right place to distribute that content in order to acquire customers. So actually it's a pretty simple game. How do I connect a piece of ad content with a publisher? It's just there's a lot of people in the middle of that are going to want to help you to do that and take you on that journey, and they all have different value sets. So a good place to start is with the agency network. Now we do a lot of training and we've written quite a lot of blog posts about when you are an advertiser, which part do you want to outsource and which part do you want to build those capabilities yourself? And you guys have probably spent the last day and a half looking at things that you're going to keep in-house, create content, creative ideas, strategy, and that kind of stuff. And over a period of time, you're probably going to want to bring some ad capabilities in-house as well, as you become more familiar with the ecosystem. But as we just saw from that chart, the ecosystem is pretty complicated, so generally a good place to start is to start working with the agency network. So a third-party agency that can start to help you navigate that complicated space. As I mentioned, over a period of time, you can start to bring some of it in-house, but working with a partner who's going to help you to get started is usually a good idea. When we think about the agency network, tend to think about it in two different categories. So over here on the left, media agencies. So media agencies that are going to enable you with media, things like research, planning, consultative, where should I go and buy, and then executing on that buy. Everything to do with procuring the right media to achieve your goals. And then over here on the right, creative agencies. So guys that are going to help you to get the right creative in place. What is the right creative strategy? How do I ideate it? What does it look like? What does that piece of great content look like? And in between that, there's a few other, maybe a PR agency or a social agency or a communication agency. But getting started with an agency is usually a good idea. If you're a business owner, then there's probably a lot of things within your own business that you really need to focus on first, and an agency can do a lot of the heavy lifting around the rest of it with you. Now we're talking about buying video advertising. Those agencies will enable you with lots and lots of different advertising, but we're talking about buying video advertising. So I thought it'd be a good idea, let's just have a look at that video supply chain. When I go and buy video advertising, what does that supply chain look like? So over here on the left, this is you looking awesome in a suit. Over here on the right is the end game, which is the publisher. So we're looking to go from there to there. When you go from there to there, that's pretty much what the current supply chain looks like. It changes quite often, and that's why agencies are a good thing to get you started, because they're paid to know all that stuff. But right now, that's pretty much what the supply chain looks like. So here is an agency trading desk. That's basically a fancy word for a team of people that will buy the space for you. Think about them as traders, stock traders, that they'll access that complicated video space and they'll start to buy for you. At the back end here is an ad network. So that tends to be a piece of technology with lots and lots of publishers in. There are billions of websites on the internet. We've spoken a lot about YouTube, which is right now the premier video distribution website, but there's lots and lots of other websites with good video content out there. Partners, ad networks would allow you to target quite a lot of them. YouTube is, in a sense, just one big ad network of user-generated content. And in the middle of that, these things are DSPs and SSPs. These are trading platforms, technologies. Does anybody know what DSP stands for? Demand side platform. And SSP? Supply, you guys are good, you don't need me. Demand side platforms and supply side platforms. So a demand side platform is a piece of technology that procures and buys, and a supply side platform is a piece of technology that makes it available. So one buys from the other. So this is buying from this. This is where all the media sits, and that can be YouTube. YouTube sits inside supply side platforms as well, and this is a team of people buying. It's quite simple, really. Ad networks and exchanges are the platforms that host all of these different publishers and allow that trade to take place. So by working with an ad network, you can access not one, but often hundreds of thousands of different websites. And because of the way that these technologies have been built, they're able to make available this advertising at scale across a lot of publishers to other technologies which can then buy it. Agency trading desks. So this is an example of some of the big agency trading desks out there. I'm sure some of you are familiar with some of the bigger names in agencies. Group M, you guys heard of Group M? Yeah. Ooh. Omnicom. Havas. This is just an example of some of the leading agencies. Within each market, there's lots and lots of small agencies as well. Here in Singapore, there's some really great Singapore agencies. Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, every market the same. There's also a lot of independent trading desks. In fact, independent trading desks kind of started before bigger agencies got involved in this. But essentially, anyone that's out there saying, I have expertise in buying that space for you. So they're essentially taking responsibility of buying all that space because it's time consuming. And generally you have a core job as well. So you're trying to make your business work, and these guys are buying that space for you, linking it back to your business goals. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then in the middle of that is the DSP and the SSP relationship. A lot of acronyms here, but that's okay because it's Singapore, right? I took the CT here. So those demand-side platforms and supply-side platforms are generally involved with real-time bidding, which is RTB. Again, that's just a fancy way to saying that the demand-side platform is always bidding. There's an algorithm and it's optimizing and it's trying to work out the right ad position for you to buy. So a team of people using demand-side and supply-side platforms to access a lot of different media. That's generally what the media buying supply chain looks like. And when you want to get started, good place to go to is, let's get an agency. They'll start to consult with me and put forward some of these solutions to start getting that supply chain working for you. And then alongside that, increasingly, there's things which are called data management platforms. So using data management platforms, you can access other data that's maybe not available on those video publishers, and then you use that data to buy more intelligent advertising. So within YouTube, for example, there's a great feature called custom audiences. Now with custom audiences feature, you can take data and upload it into a custom audience and target those very specific people across the YouTube space, and you can do that on Facebook as well. So for example, if we have a data set, if Uber was here, and they had a data set of people that don't use Uber taxis, don't use Uber apps, but a data set of people that have competitor taxi apps, then we could upload that as a custom audience. Here's 50,000 phone numbers of people that use competitor taxi apps, and then we could target a piece of video content to competitor taxi app companies. So that's how we can start to bring data to play to purchase as well. So a very strong, good agency in place, then your video supply chain working for you, and then a good data strategy alongside, and you're pretty much ready to go. And you can accomplish that in a fairly short period of time. Okay, make sense? Good. Yes, Matt. Okay, good. So now we're going to look at digital media planning. So now I've hired an agency. They've spent a few weeks consulting with me. I've then got a good partner supply chain in place. So I know exactly how we're going to buy. I've got the right technology, right partners in place. Now I'm going to start making some media plans. So what does a media plan look like? Well, on the brief that Nick gave me, he called this performance hypothesis generation. So I was Googling performance hypothesis generation on the way to Damien Rice last night. So performance hypothesis generation really just means, what am I trying to achieve? So I want to buy some media, what am I trying to achieve? And if there's one takeaway that I would be really happy that you guys leave here today with, it would be focus on your business goals first and your marketing goals second. Business goals first, marketing goals second. So very, very often when we're working with advertisers across Asia, they're very, very focused on what is the click-through rate? How many clicks am I going to get? How many website visitors am I going to get? And these marketing goals are not necessarily tied back to the business goals. So performance hypothesis generation, it's quite a sentence, is really about saying, these are the business goals that I want to achieve. Is it 1,000 new customers? Is it 10,000 signups? Is it increased brand recall? Ultimately, your business goals are acquire customers. But when you break acquire customers, make more money, have more customers spending more, when you roll that back one level, then there's a series of business goals that are going to get you to that end goal. Start with those business goals, and then you challenge your partners and yourself to say, okay, well, what marketing goals am I going to create to achieve those business goals? And guess what? It's not normally 1,000 clicks. It's not normally 10,000 people watch my video. So those clicks and those video views need to actually link back to achieving your business goals. So business goals first, marketing goals second. And once you have that in mind, it's like, okay, well, here's my business goals. Here's what I need to achieve. Then what's the campaign idea that's going to get me there? What's the campaign idea that's going to get me there? So for example, we've recently been working with a telco that's one of the leading telcos, but they don't have enough customers on the network that use data. So the number one telco, but they're the number 3 telco in terms of people that use data. That's a business goal. I need more customers using data in order to keep making more money. So now I have that business goal, I need to have more people using data. What's the campaign idea? The big idea that's going to make me more of an attractive telco for data? What performance metrics do I then put in place against that big campaign idea? And then what are the KPIs that are going to link back to that? So you need to work back to front all the time. That's a very important stage. And it's also very important to remember that the digital marketing funnel, which given that media consumption is now becoming increasingly digital and people are online all the time, is the only marketing funnel that matters. The digital marketing funnel, digital media has changed the traditional marketing funnel. So we used to go from awareness to something like interest to purchase to loyalty. So it was very, very simple. We used mass media platforms like television and newspapers. We threw as much push media advertising, get as many eyeballs as possible, just throwing media at people, and then hopefully down the bottom, people just kind of hopefully remembered us and then went and purchased. Now that we live in a world of digital and social media, that has changed. The YouTube presentation just now showed you how people move across the space, they expect engagement, they take videos and they share them on Facebook, they take them and they share them on Instagram. That means that the interest, research, consultation phase will take place online, and you can't control this. You can't control this. Once you start pushing media in this funnel, people will then take it and share it to their friends. People will then research it and go online. They'll go to a Facebook page and expect to have a two-way conversation with you and ask about it. They'll take a promotion and share it with somebody in a completely different country who they don't even know, but because they're interested in the same thing, they're in the same online communities. So you can think about the marketing funnel now as being like a pinball. You throw that one ball down there and then the skittles go everywhere. So when you're making a media plan, you need to be building specific stories for each part of this customer journey. The top bit, awareness, is quite simple, but then once people get into research and consult and trial, how are you communicating with them in those phases as well? That's extremely important. So you're going to need to plan a digital media campaign. There's 3 key stages. You've worked out that, okay, I want to tie my business goals back to my marketing goals. I've understood the digital marketing funnel and I'm creating a plan for each stage of that marketing funnel. Now what I'm going to have to do is do some research and insight. And this is really why you need a partner to do a lot of this heavy lifting in the early stages. But there's a lot of tools that you can use to work out what are the right places that I can go to procure the kind of inventory that I've decided that I need. So media consumption. So where are people, the kind of customers that I want, what kind of media are they consuming, and where is this media? Where do I find this people that I need to reach? What kind of creative will I need there? What are those audience consuming there? Once I've figured all that out, it's what's my strategy? Okay, I know what my marketing goal is. It's linked to my business goal. I know the kind of messages I want to send at the different parts of the marketing funnel. I've done my research, so I know which publishers I want to buy. But then each of those publishers and each of those spaces looks a little bit different. So what strategy am I going to employ there? And then finally select that media. So there's some very specific stages that you need to go through when you want to start amplifying your content to acquire customers. Then you're going to have a media plan. So this is an Alpala media plan. I just thought I'd bring one with me. You're going to have a media plan. It's going to look something like this. So broadly, which media am I going to buy? When is that campaign going to start? When's it going to finish? How much am I going to spend against which parts of that media? You're going to have a plan that looks like this. The important thing to remember in digital is that once the campaign goes live, this plan is going to get ripped up anyway, because we can optimize. So it's not necessary that we're going to completely stick to this plan, but it's important to have a plan in place when you start off, and from there you can optimize against those channels and the results that you're getting, and we're going to talk about that a little bit in a minute. I want to have a quick talk about budget allocation. So just a quick note, I thought it was an important thing to say. Do you guys know what the average spend on digital is of a client's total ad expenditure? So if an advertiser has $100, how much do you think they're currently allocating to digital? Any guesses? 10%? Any other guesses? Luckily we got it right first time. You've already read the slides. She's quick. So typically an advertiser in Asia right now is spending about 10% of their budget online. Now it's different in each market, and some advertisers are more advanced than others, but on average, an advertiser is spending about 10% of their budget online. Now if you think about your own media consumption habits, do you spend 10% of your media consumption time online? Who thinks that they spend 90% of their time reading newspapers and 10% of their time on Facebook? I'd love to see that guy. So in Asia right now, there's a bit of a disconnect still between where the consumers are spending their time consuming media and then where we are allocating our budgets. So most advertisers are getting this wrong. They're spending too much money on traditional media that people are spending less time on and not enough on social and video platforms. A big part of that is because of the complicated lunarscape, and it takes time to figure this out, and that's what sessions like this are all about, to try to push that education further. But from our point of view, you should be spending at least 40% of your money online, at least 40%. All the statistics show that about 50% of consumption time is online and about 50% is offline. So let's say at least 40% online. And then if you look at what people do online, they spend about 50 to 70% of their time on social and video space. So broadly speaking, take your total AdX budget, about 40% of that is in digital, and then of that digital spend, about 50 to 70% across social and video, depending on who you are and what your goals are. Search still has a very important role to play, but if you stick to that kind of a metric, you're going to be about right. So if you're spending at those kind of metrics, ultimately your total ad expenditure will be about 24% social and digital video, about 16% on other digital, offline media at about 30%, television at about 30%. So some of the most successful forward-thinking advertisers in Asia are already here. A lot of advertisers are trying to get to that space now. I think they need the right partners to be able to do it. It takes time, but just something on budget allocation to help you out. Digital execution and optimization. So we've linked our business goal to our marketing goal. We've got good partners in place. We've created a media plan. We've got good budget allocation. We're happy with our media plan. Now it comes down to execution. So delivering of that campaign online. So the first thing, and it was mentioned a couple of times in the last presentation, which was great, and Nick's mentioned it, which is great, is that once we got all of that stuff in place, the thing to remember in digital is that we do a lot of A/B testing. So in traditional mass media like television, you spend $1 million on an ad, you run that ad for 3 months, then you do a survey, and then you find out, did it work, did it not? And then 6 months later, you're going to create another TV ad when the market's already moved anyway, and then you're going to start that process all over again. Now the great thing about digital is that it's an always-on media, and it's completely transparent. So if we have the right partners and platforms in place, which we've looked at today, you can literally, as soon as the campaign goes live, you're already gathering those metrics. You don't have to wait 3 months to ask someone, were they sat on the sofa, did they see that ad, did it make them want to buy a pizza more? We can find out within 24 hours how people are engaging with online videos. And as Nick mentioned, we can have 4 to 5 different creative coming up, all the concepts are slightly different. We can permeate that across lots and lots of different audiences, and very, very quickly we can find out which creative concept is appealing to what kind of audience. We can see those engagement metrics, and we can start to optimize. So the optimization process in digital starts as soon as the campaign goes live. We don't wait for 3 months to see if it succeeded or failed. You should be putting multiple creative online, multiple audiences, and A/B testing. And on an always-on basis, within the first few hours, you're starting to gather data and optimize. So it should look something like this. In the first week or the first 2 weeks is your testing phase where you're gathering that data. Your budget's a little bit smaller. You're spending a bit slower in this phase, and you're starting to gather that data. Within a couple of weeks, you've optimized out the creative that didn't work. As Nick said, it's a bit shitty. We got rid of it. We've relinked the right creative with the right audience to get those best results. We've seen the engagement go up. We're starting to hit those marketing and KPI goals, which are linked back to our business goals. And now this is when we go into 5th gear. So we spend a week or 2 doing this. We fine-tune the whole thing so it's working, and then we start spending, chasing those goals. So in the first 2 weeks, yes, we're making progress against those goals. We should always be. And in fact, we're optimizing it day by day, getting better. really after a week or 2 weeks, depending on the campaign, we really know which bits are working, and then we go full throttle on those bits that are working. Again, a key takeaway for you guys is that testing is super important. So human beings being human beings, we hate to see things fail, especially when we're working with partners. Our kind of psyche is to push hard on partners and just be horrible to them to get them to do what we want. So what advertisers tend to do is, after day 3 or day 5, when a partner's kind of saying, let's optimize out this creative, that they're seeing it as a failure, and I think Nick mentioned this, the testing phase is super key. You need to allow things to fail. It's all brilliant learning, and what it is real-time consumer insight. In a traditional offline world, we will pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to find out market research, to find out what our customers think about certain products. In digital, in the testing phase, we're getting free consumer research. So you should look at it as free consumer research. You should look at it as an optimization and testing phase that isn't available in offline media. And once we get through that phase, we then go and spend large to achieve those KPI goals. And this is where we do hypothesis validation. I love these words. Hypothesis validation. I've lifted all these words off the brief that Nick gave me. Hypothesis validation. So now that we've had our hypothesis generation, then we're delivering, then what comes back? Hypothesis validation. Now the key thing here is that you need to have created those business goals and link them back to your marketing goals in order to then look at reports to see if you're on track. And again, another key takeaway is very, very often, one of the things that I think that we're not so great at in Asia, but we're getting better, is that we haven't done that planning process and linked those business goals back to those marketing goals. So when the report comes out, no one really knows what they're supposed to be looking at. So they just start looking at, well, was it cheap? Did I get a lot of clicks? Have a lot of people looked at my video? So they start looking at these metrics which have no context. So it's very, very important to set KPIs up front, but those KPIs need to come from the business goals. And then we know that if we're hitting our KPIs, we know what KPIs we're looking for and why, that we tie all that back to the business goals. So reporting is key. And again, in digital, this reporting can be done always on. So if you have the right partners in place, you've got dashboards, you can be looking at this all the time, but I wouldn't look at it 24/7, it might stress you out too much. But on a periodical basis, you can access the dashboards and look at them. And I would certainly say that once a week, you should be doing a deep dive. So, check it daily is fine, but then once a week, really take 2 hours out and do a deep dive and look at that hypothesis validation. Are we achieving all the things that we said that we would do? Good stuff, customer retention. So this is key. I've done all of that work. I've navigated that ridiculously complicated lunarscape. I've got all the right goals in place. I'm buying the right media. I'm acquiring customers. I need to retain those customers. So I'm using the great content. Content is king, distribution is queen. My distribution is looking good. My king and my queen are happy. I'm acquiring customers. How do I know that I'm acquiring the right customers? I'm acquiring the right customers and retaining them. So that's super key. So this is the back end of the digital marketing funnel, where I'm looking to make sure that I get great customer loyalty. I'm looking to build brand advocates, and I'm looking to ensure that they share what I have, they're loyal to my brand, and they're energizing my brand. And as we mentioned when we touched on this same marketing funnel before, you should be marketing to these people in a different way. So the key thing is that as you acquire these customers, have the right metrics in place to make sure that you know who are my really loyal customers. One of our clients that we work with, and I really like this, he talks about his surprise customers and then his loyal customers. It's like this guy bought a t-shirt, this guy signed up for the data plan, but he's a surprise customer. He's not my real core demographic. I'll take the revenue, but who's that person who's going to be my advocate? Who's my big customer? If I market to him in the right way or her in the right way, they will share my content and they will take my message online. You need a different media plan for these people. You need to be reaching out to them in a very, very different way. And as I mentioned before, custom audiences are awesome for this. Your community pages are awesome for this. Your YouTube page is awesome for this. Your Facebook page is awesome for this. Get these people subscribing to your channels and give them content that they will then go and share for you Give them specific promotions that only they get. Serve them a different advertising message for a different product, because they are necessarily a different beast, they're a different customer, and if you market to these people in the right way, they'll market for you for free. So very, very important in retaining customers. We've written a book about a metric called customer lifetime value. So in our opinion, the only real metric, the end metric, if you want to be in the matrix, is customer lifetime value. So as I mentioned before, very, very often advertisers in Asia are focused around KPIs that don't have any context to them. So was the click-through rate high? Did I get a lot of clicks? Was it cheap? Did a lot of people come and visit my website? They're not really linked back to business goals, and your business goal is, from the media that I acquire, I want to make more money from the customers that I get at the end of that. And that's customer lifetime value. So if I take all the money that I spend on media, and then I look at all the customers that I acquire at the end of it, and then how much money are they then generating and revenue they generating to my company, that's customer lifetime value. So if you track all the people that become customers, and then they start spending, work out who they are, find out the ones that are purchasing from you over a period of time and giving you the most amount of revenue. That's where your customer lifetime value is, and optimize for that. That's the main thing. So those 100 customers, those 500 customers, those 1,000 customers that bought the most amount of product, who are they? Which creative message do they respond to, and why? And then optimize for that metric. Customer lifetime value is the ultimate metric. We've written a book about this. There's 10 of these books, first come, first served, so anyone that wants to get one, just grab one on your way out. Okay, because this is a video session, I wanted to finish with a funny video. So this is a great piece of video content, video ad content generated by Burger King on YouTube. It's one of our favorite ones, we show it quite regularly to clients. I'm hoping it's gonna play.
YouTube ad. I hate these things. This guy's just trying to watch a YouTube clip, but no, they have to sit through an ad. Stupid, incredible deal.